Hi, this is Ralph Zuranski. I'm on the phone with George Callens. He's one of the icons in the industry that's been involved in just about every part of marketing, testing, conference promotion, and George is probably one of the finest people I've met at the Internet conferences. I've worked with him at a number of the big seminars while I took pictures. He was coordinating what was going on at the conferences, and I have to say it's a real pleasure to recognize him as a professional and also as a hero, somebody that's really of great service in the industry. And he's always behind the scenes. He's doing stuff, making people feel great, making sure everything flows smoothly, and I just have to say, George, you're awesome.
Well, thank you, Ralph. I'm getting a big head now. It's actually embarrassing to hear you say all that.
Well, most of the people that know you that would know that it's true, and they would agree to it. So let me go ahead and ask you a few questions. What is your definition of heroism?
Oh, good grief, Ralph. My definition of heroism for sure is not what I am. I think a hero is somebody who goes above and beyond what needs. Actually, they don't even have to go above and beyond what needs to be done. They have to take actions that are totally selfless. I mean, they do it because it's the right thing to do. They do not do it because of personal gain, personal prestige, or anything like that. People think of heroic people as, running in a burning building and saving them, and yes, that's heroic. But there's many, many other ways to be heroic, and it's just doing the right thing because it's right, not because there's any benefit to you for it.
Yeah. A lot of people have difficult childhoods. I don't know how difficult yours was. Did you ever create a secret hero in your mind that helped you deal with life's difficulties?
To be honest with you, no, I didn't. We grew up on a farm. Didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. But I don't recall ever having, I always had dreams, but I don't recall ever having a personal hero. It's probably when you don't have a TV when you're growing up, and the only thing you hear on the radio is polka music your mom is playing, and you probably don't have too many heroes to find.
Was your mom Polish?
Yes, she was, Ralph.
Are you Polish?
Half.
Half, me too.
That's quite a question, Ralph. First you ask me if my mom's Polish, and I say yes, then you ask me if I'm Polish.
Well, I've always had that question myself. My dad's Polish, but my mom's not.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
What is your perspective on goodness, ethics, and moral behavior?
Can you repeat that?
What is your perspective on goodness, ethics, and moral behavior?
Oh, boy, you really asked some hard questions. Goodness.
That's why these interviews are so interesting.
Yeah.
Most people never get a chance in the industry to discuss other than marketing principles. These are principles about life.
That's right. I would have to say goodness is the ability in us to see and act on the good in others. And there can be, I would say there could even probably be an evil person that has some goodness in them, because if that person sees some goodness in another and acts upon it, even though they are really criminal to everybody else, I would say that person has a spark of goodness. Now, that person is not ethical in that case. Ethical is acting. Ethical is taking the proper actions, even when, in some cases, they might be personally detrimental to you or personally inconvenient to you. You still take the right actions, even though it is not the easiest course. And what is the third question?
Moral behavior.
Moral behavior. That one is the hardest of all of them, because moral behavior is more than any of the other two in the concept of the beholder. You go to some parts of the United States or the world, in fact, and they may think that violent movies are immoral. Others may think nudity is immoral. There's a number of things we think immoral depending on our cultural upbringing. Now, where I come from, we're a little conservative. The nudity and the sexual openness might be considered immoral, but we enjoy, the old Gunsmoke series, to me, was one of the best series out there, and that was one of the most violent series. I've met people in my life that thought that show was totally immoral. I thought it was a very moral show, and each show had a moral lesson. So, morality has to be determined by the norms of your culture. Now, is it possible that you grew up in a culture where something really evil is moral? I don't know. That's a question I can't ask. I have to answer it for me, and for me, I guess most of my moral guidelines are probably dictated by religion.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a lot of trials and tribulations that people experience in life, and sometimes we have the opportunity to sacrifice our life for things, and not so much running into a building and dying for somebody or taking a bullet. It's the idea of people that you sacrifice your time and your energy for that basically become your most valuable things in your life. What do you think about that perspective, the difference between somebody that sacrifices their life running into a burning building to save somebody, or somebody that's at war, or somebody that sacrifices their lives for people that need help?
That one's quite easy. People who sacrifice their lives by running into a burning building or in an act of war aren't necessarily, we consider them heroic, but many times that's an instinctive reaction. That's adrenaline reacting. That's the fact that we think that we are incapable of death, that we will live forever. That's doing it. I've spent 5 years in Vietnam, and I know many of the times when something comes up like that, it's a heroic action. I know some of the people in Iraq that have come back now, and I've talked to some of them, and some of them may have lost a limb saving someone or something or the other, and when you ask them about it, it was nothing heroic. It was just an instinctive reaction that they did. And I think that probably has a lot to do with morals. The fact that they instinctively reacted that way. If they had taken time to think about it and realize the danger, they might not have done it. Now, on the other hand, somebody who over a longer period of time, and the first person that comes to mind is you, Ralph. Upsetting your family, moving, and going to San Diego to become the sole, you and your wife becoming the sole caregivers of your father and mother. Now, to me, that is pretty doggone heroic. That took intention, that took forethought, that took perseverance, and the fact that you realize it isn't going to be over in a few seconds. You're going to be doing that for a long time to come, and you don't complain. You actually do it cheerfully.
I think it has to do with integrity. When you say that you're going to do something, you have to be a person of your word, and I know that you are that also, and I know that you've had some pretty difficult times in your life also. When was the lowest point in your life, and how do you change that path of lowness to victory?
The low points in your life, at least for me, are kind of hard to point out, because when they're over, I forget about them. I am a normally optimistic person. It's sometimes the most irritating thing to my wife or some of the family members who are not as optimistic, because I can see a silver lining in just about everybody. I'm the little boy in the story, who was put in the room with the pile of manure, and he was digging because where here's manure, there's a pony. That would be me. But I would have to say the closest time, what I would say would be the lowest of my life, probably when I was, a day or so after I had a heart attack, and I was up in the Abbott Heart Institute up in Minneapolis, laying there and realizing that everything I had done, I could no longer do, or many of the things I had done I could no longer do. I would no longer be able to have my pilot's. Well, I could have my pilot's license, but I would no longer have a medical to fly. I wasn't able to be at least for a period of time, the breadwinner for our family. I would say that had to be the lowest time, and it probably lasted a day or two, and then after that, once in a while, but never something to dwell on. I almost immediately started focusing on other things.
How important is it to have a dream or vision that sets the course of your life?
I can barely hear you there, Ralph.
How important is it to have a dream or vision that sets the course of your life?
A dream or vision, as in the singular, I would say isn't that important. In the plural, it is life. The dream, the vision, the journey is what life is all about. I have never, and I know some people have said, from the time they were young, they had this vision and they aimed at it, and I guess that's okay, but to me that would be kind of boring. I have many, many visions, each one taking me to an upper level, but I like to take multiple paths to that upper level, and I think that's what keeps me optimistic, that's what keeps me happy, is having multiple visions. And how critical is it? You doggone right it is critical. It is life. Without that, I would say that people who go into depression, maybe people who commit suicide, it's because they don't have a vision.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you think it's important to take a positive view of setbacks, misfortunes, and mistakes?
Oh, definitely. You can't ignore them because they may, gnaw at you internally. But you have to look at them and say, hey, this happened. I learned this from it. What's next? I was a corporate manager for quite a while in the cellular industry, and I had a lot of independent companies that sold our cellular service under us, and we would come out with rules and regulations that pertained to the company. That benefited the corporation, because that's who we had to watch out for, legally. But sometimes they weren't always the most advantageous for the independent agents under me, and part of my life, part of my stress was just fielding complaints for them. But the single best agent I had, whenever we would come out with something that, was, I shouldn't say detrimental, but wasn't in their best interest, he would just call and he would read me the riot act, hang up on the phone, and call back 15 minutes later and say, hey, George, sorry about that. I already figured a way how to get around that. He made more money than anybody else. Those who complained on it and dwelled on it and never got past it, they never amounted to much. They just didn't have the sales, and everything in life is that way. Yes, you can react. Yes, you can react to a situation, but then get over it and figure out what the next step is.
Does it take a lot of courage to pursue new ideas?
I don't think so, but most people would disagree with me on that. To me, I put pursuing new ideas in the same field as change, and from what I understand, most people are afraid of change. I embrace change. I get bored very fast, and I love change. I guess maybe there might be a deep level that I wouldn't want to change. I don't know what that is. Well, yeah, I guess there is. I'm married to my wife, and I wouldn't want that ever to change. But other than that, for me, no. For me, I embrace change. I love it. It keeps me young, Ralph.
A lot of people fear the discomfort that comes when you do pursue your dreams, when you're willing to change your life path when it's not going in the direction that you want. Do you think that it's important for people to realize that there is discomfort, that sometimes it is hard to achieve your dreams?
If it wasn't hard to achieve your dreams, they wouldn't be good enough dreams. Anything that isn't hard isn't a dream, it's a reality. So if you're pursuing something and it's going too easily for you, and there's no challenge, you really don't have a dream or a goal. You're just living. You're just existing, I should say. So yes, there should be fear. That's part of life. Fear. Our bodies are made to react to fear, to interact with fear, I should say, and to carry us to the next level. Many times when I'm supposed to be doing something and I don't get it done till the last minute, yeah, there's fear there, and yes, I better change what I'm doing and get it done. But that adrenaline shot helps me get it done, and it's a really good feeling.
So is that the way that you overcome your doubts and fears, is just persevering and just pressing onward and doing the best that you can?
Yeah, I would say so. When you say it that way, it makes it sound kind of depressing, but it isn't that way. I find it uplifting. Yeah, yes, I just persevere, push on. Man, I find that exciting.
You know, a lot of people are paralyzed by fear. They fear failure, and a lot of the heroes that I've talked to, they say that the faster you fail and the more times you fail, the more opportunities you have to find out how it doesn't work and eventually find out how it does work. What do you think about that?
Oh, that's right on target. When I was a kid, of course, I mentioned we didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, so I was a little older than most kids when I got my first bicycle, and it was one that my aunt gave me, and so it was a full-size bike, and I was just a little kid, and then probably clumsier than most, and it took me a long time and a lot of pain and a lot of cuts and a lot of blood before I learned to ride a bike, and besides that, it didn't have brakes, so in order to stop, I had to run it into something each time, and that didn't always work too good. But, yeah, if I had quit the first time, I never would have rode a bike. I just got up, picked myself up, sometimes cried a little bit, but I hopped right on that bike and kept on going.
It's sometimes difficult in life when we have people that upset, offend, and oppose us. How important is forgiveness, forgiving those people that seem to just always be at us and they're always trying to make us angry?
I guess that's real important. When I went to college late in life, I was in my late 30s when I went to college, and one of the exercises we had to do was think of the person you hate the most. And I can't remember what it was beyond that, but I had to think, and why you hate them. And it took me a long time to even find somebody I hated at all. And when I finally did find the guy, the more I thought about it, the more I liked, the more reason I saw not to hate the guy. When I worked in the corporate world also, there was a guy, him and I leapfrogged over each other to success as we went in the corporate dream. And many a times I didn't like him, but I tell you what, I always wished I could really hate him, but if he ever needed any help for anything, I'm the first who would rush to his side. Mm. Probably wouldn't like him, but I sure don't hate him.
Yeah. How important is it to be service to others? Do you find that as a source of joy in your life?
Yes. Yes, I do. I find it a lot easier to do things for others and make sacrifices than I do for myself. That's why I facilitate these events. That's why I do good. That's probably why you do good at taking the pictures at the events and taking care of your folks, because I just don't find it that important to do things selfishly for myself. I just enjoy doing them for others, and I think that takes a big load off your mind. I think that makes your conscience freer, and just makes life a little easier.
I really believe that's true, and one of the things that's powerful in my life that I think keeps me having a positive attitude is the power of prayer. How important is prayer in your life?
I'm going to pray every day, sometimes multiple times.
Yep, me too. It makes a difference.
It sure does.
Do you maintain a sense of humor in the face of serious problems?
I maintain a sense of humor in the face of everything.
That's why I like you so much.
Yeah, my dad used to get upset and he'd say, "George, you're just a grinning fool."
Well, who are the heroes in your life?
My dad. I guess I had probably a school teacher or two that might have been the heroes in my life, but most of my heroes were within my family. Probably my dad, some of my uncles. I probably even have maybe a family like a brother-in-law or something that probably would fit into that, just because I'm thinking of one in particular who's doing what he wants because he wants it, and in the family he's the one that everybody rallies around him because he is totally secure.
Mm-hmm.
Not financially, but that doesn't bother him.
Mm-hmm. Well, how did they make a positive difference in your life?
By being what they are and setting an example.
Do you feel that there's any real heroes in our society today that aren't getting the recognition that they deserve?
I think that any and all the heroes in our society are not getting the recognition they deserve. The people that we put up on a pedestal and call heroes are glory seekers, in my opinion, clay feet, and should not be heroes at all. Now, I'm sure somebody can point out an exception here and there, but I'm making a general statement. I think the real heroes are the unsung people who do what they have to do what they do because it's the right thing to do.
Well, that's really true, isn't it? How come heroes are so important in the lives of young people?
when we're young, we have nothing to base our values on, nothing to base our judgments on, nothing to base our goals or our future on. So the young have to look to somebody to set an example. Now they can look to an anti-hero or somebody, some negative person, and set their values that way, or they can look at a positive or a real hero or a person who does something to help others. They can look at people who make millions of dollars, or they can look at people who just have good, solid lives. Whatever they look at and pattern is what they will become. So it is very, very important that they look at and pattern people who are confident in themselves, people who are doing the right things because it's right, not because it's just for the money. Now, there's nothing wrong with also making money and having that person a hero, but, it would be very detrimental if they made some of the key figures in the Enron scandal as their hero. That would, let's say, if a bunch of our youth did that, or a large percentage of our youth did that, that would be probably a very devastating effect on the future of our nation and the world.
A lot of the young people, they say that, cheating is at epidemic levels, and you look at the politicians and you look at some of these business leaders that all that matters to them is money and power. Do you think that those people are individuals that are giving kids the wrong idea on what it is to become a valuable human being?
Yes, it is. If the kids are patterning themselves, patterning themselves after those people, and I don't know how much they are. As I was younger, I was a little more naive. I now personally know some of these politicians. I personally know some of the movers and shakers in the world, in the financial industry and some of that. Actually, I'm kind of disappointed in most of them.
Why is that?
Maybe it was just being naive on my part, but it seems that any goodness they espouse or morals or ethics that they espouse are just done or are just promoted in order for personal gain, not because they really want to do them. Now, are there, and even in the most blatant violators of that, do they have probably at some level certain values that they espouse just because they are values? And yes, I believe that's right. But I believe when you get up to a certain level, you think you're beyond the law, you think you're beyond not only the law of man, but the law of God and the law of nature. And you act that way, and in the end, it's to your detriment. If anybody patterns you, it's a disaster, and it's through their detriment. But surprisingly enough, I don't know if cheating is epidemic among our youth or not. I guess in our family it's not. All my kids are grown, but my grandkids are all honor students in school, very into sports and everything, and they're pretty shocked by some of the stuff that they hear in the sports world and in the business world, etc. I worry for two reasons. One is that the examples set by some of these leaders will, in one case, shock people and deter them from trying to achieve maybe high status in business or wealth or anything. There's nothing wrong with that. It's how it's achieved. But if they get too negative opinion on it and think that you have to be corrupt to it, corrupt to reach those levels, they probably won't attain those levels. On the other hand, I think I lost my train of thought on that. But one was that they won't attain them, and the other is that probably that the other extreme would be that they do value those and value the fact that a person can get by with something and attain to do that.
Well, it's funny. I interviewed David Garfinkel, and you know David pretty well.
Yes, I know David very well.
And David said that in just his research, it was amazing that people that society would consider evil, say like the mafia, that they actually considered themselves the good guys, that they're offering society products and services that society desires, and they feel that they're doing good things in the process of what they're doing and fighting against the evil forces. And David made a good point in that most people, even though other people would consider them evil, those people consider themselves good. And Gregory Allen Williams, the black cop on Baywatch, who actually saved a guy's life during the LA riots, he said that there's a little bit of bad in the best of us and a little bit of good in the worst of us, and that when anybody steps up to help somebody else, that at that moment in time, they transcend their reality and actually can become a hero, someone that helps others. What do you think about that?
I think that's absolutely on target. I think of two things. One is during 9/11, when the planes hit the towers and people were running, I heard reports of what you would probably call street gang members helping other people. And there was just this whole atmosphere of humanity helping humanity that came about in one of the biggest cities of the world, and probably one that may have a little bit higher crime rate, a little bit higher disenchantment with society. They all came together at least for a short period of time, so that showed that even some of these people who, under normal circumstances or what we would consider normally consider evil, that they do have goodness in them. The other thing is General Stilwell, when he was in Taiwan, the general was very frustrated with the brass and with the politics of the military. And he said, and you're going to have to pardon my speech, but I think I'm going to quote him pretty accurately. He said, "The higher the monkey climbs the pole, the more you see of its ass." In other words, no matter how good you are, as you get higher up in society, people see more and more of the bad part of you.
Uh-huh.
And so I think both of those statements are true. And the gentleman you quoted from Baywatch, I watch very little television, so I'm not really familiar with Baywatch, but I think he was right on with what he said.
Yeah. Well, how does it feel to be recognized as a hero that I found on the Internet?
Embarrassing.
Why is that?
Because I know myself, because I know my limitations, because I know the little demons in those cages inside me, and while I do good things, and I try to, I in no way, shape, or form do I consider myself a hero.
Well, you seem to be following the paradigm that you've described of what a hero is and what heroic action is. You seem to actually walking the walk.
Let's say I try to.
Well, that's all any of us can do.
Yeah, I suppose. I was really shocked when you first approached me about this, Ralph, because I just look at myself as a regular person. I don't look at myself as a hero.
I know, working with you behind the scenes and working with all the sort of like internet rock stars that we've got.
Okay.
You know, there's a certain amount of persona that permeates those people, and let's face it, they're all up there selling big ticket items, and they have to pretty much make their product more valuable to the people in the audience, and they are competed for a limited amount of money. And when I stand in the back of the room, with you, and just see how hard you work and Billy works and all the support team work, I really realize that, you guys are really the heroes just because you work so hard and you make great events happen through your hard work. Well,
yes, it is hard work. I farmed and milked cows by hand when we were kids, and that's all hard physical labor. But I don't think I've ever worked as hard as I do at these live training events like Big Seminar. In fact, is that almost every one I end up having to see a doctor afterwards because I just run myself into the ground. But I don't look at it when I'm doing it as work. I am just having fun. I am enjoying it. I enjoy making sure things run smoothly. I enjoy helping the people there and interacting with them. And if I didn't, I wouldn't do it. I've done it for free, and I've been paid for it, and I tell you what, it was a heck of a lot more fun when I did it for free. Worked the same on both of them.
Uh-huh.
But it just, and that's again why I find it hard to be considered a hero, because to me, something like that is very, very enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you have any good solutions for the problems society is facing today, especially racism, child and spousal abuse, and violence among young people?
Openness, communication, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, just stopping and thinking, would I like to be treated that way? Stopping and thinking, why am I treating a person that way? Stopping and thinking, does this make any sense? Will I be embarrassed by this later? What would I think if the general public saw what I was doing in private? If they could view me doing it, would I be embarrassed? If a person did that, it boils down to the golden rule. I don't care how you put it, do unto others as you would want done unto yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you had 3 wishes for your life in the world that would instantly come true, what would they be?
What a lot of people would say is peace on earth, but I won't, because I'll add something to it. It has to be peace with freedom on earth. You can have a dictatorship where there's a lot of peace. I mean, no one's fighting because no one dares to. You have to have peace with freedom on earth, and that means there has to be an openness among all of humankind, an openness to accept difference, an openness to accept change. So that, and actually I say a prayer for that every day, peace with freedom on earth. And you said 3 things?
Yeah.
One is I wish I could get my medical back so I could fly. That would make the world a lot better.
Uh-huh.
And 2 is, or the third one is, well, the first one was more holistic for the world. The second one, which I probably should have put in the third place, but we'll leave it in second now, was very personal, maybe self-fulfilling. The third one is I want to realize what my purpose is on earth here, and to do what I can to fulfill the purpose on earth, not the goals I set for myself, but the goals that I was put here on earth for. And I keep a little plaque here in my office, here in my basement, and I don't know who wrote it or where I got it, but I just printed it up on a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and put a frame around it years ago. And it says, I shall pass this way but once. Any good, therefore, that I can do, or any kindness that I can show to any human being, let me do it now. Let me not defer nor neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. That's kind of the way I live.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think about the In Search of Heroes program and its impact on youth, parents, and business people?
You mean your In Search of Heroes program?
Yep.
I think it's, what I think it'll do is set a benchmark that people will have to achieve on, say, the adult level in order to become a hero. And any time we raise that benchmark, we will never be able to raise it for everybody, but the more people we can get to think about it and strive to raise that benchmark, the better it will be for our youth, because they will see holistically a change. Even though there are still going to be bad people out there, they will look at the world as a whole and say, boy, there's still a lot of good people out there. There's a lot of people who do things because it's right. And I think your program goes a long way into getting that recognition to people who are the unsung heroes and doing things right.
What are the things that parents can do that will help their children realize that they too can be heroes and make a positive impact on the lives of others?
Positive reinforcement to the children. I know people, including in my own family, who love their children very much, but they used negative reinforcement. In other words, if they wanted the children to do something, they would say, "Oh, you'll never do that," thinking they were giving a challenge, but actually they were giving discouragement. So parents need to give positive reinforcement. The parents then have to walk the talk. They have to not fight amongst themselves. I mean, there's excessively, I should say, there will always be disagreements. They have to be willing to forgive their neighbor. They have to be willing to forgive each other. They have to be willing to forgive their children and show that that's not a sign of weakness, that that's actually a sign of strength. I would say that's parents' biggest responsibility, to set the example for their children, not in what they say, but actually in what they do.
It's hard for parents these days to know really what to do. Some people in society say parents should be their kids' best buddies, and others say it's important for parents to be the parents and set the guidelines and set up the discipline for the children. What do you think about that?
I don't think parents should be their children's best buddies. I think they can be very friendly with their children. I think they can have a lot of fun with their children. No, as they grow older, they can be best buddies. But now when the kids are little, they need the discipline, they need the guidelines, they need the structure that a parent provides. a parent who strives, a parent can't naturally be their best buddy. They have to strive to it, because a parent is an adult, and their needs, the way their mind functions and everything else is different from that of a child. So when you think of a buddy as somebody who acts like you and everything like that, a parent can't do that naturally. So they shouldn't do that naturally. They should provide the structure for a child to be a child naturally. I think we, many times, in the effort of improving our children, push them in sports and everything else. I know families that have their children in sports, and their whole life, I mean, their vacations, who they visit, who can come and visit them, all revolves around the sports schedule. And I think that, while it does show some self-sacrifice from the parents of the kids, I think that also is unrealistic. They have to set the guidelines and say, hey, yes, sports is good. Sports build your body. Sports build your mind. Sports build your spirit, or anything else. Other, whether it be music, whether it be sports, whether it be reading a book, whatever it is. But we have to keep everything in the proper context. There are times to do that. There are times to visit grandma. There are times to take a family trip. There are times to sit and talk. We can't let these other things dictate everything in our life.
George, that's pretty profound information. I really appreciate your time and being able to answer these questions. Do you have any last piece of information that you want to share with the young people?
There's one quote that I always make, and doggone it, it's supposed to be hanging here in my office, but it's kind of messy, and I can't find it. I just wanted to quote who the person who said it was, but it goes like this. You've heard everything I've said about heroes and that's all good, and you have to do that. But always remember the lowly turtle. The turtle makes no progress unless it sticks its neck out. You have to take a chance, an ethical chance, but you have to take a chance. You can't withdraw. Maybe life dealt you a lot of wicked blows. Maybe you don't have the best family life. Maybe you grew up in an atmosphere of street crime, drugs, or depending on government programs for your food and welfare. That's great, and sometimes it is more comfortable to sit in there, but you need to stick your neck out. You have to get uncomfortable. You have to get yourself out of there. You can't depend on other people for getting you out of there. You can't blame other people for you remaining in there. You have to take action for yourself, and the older you get, the more important that is.
Well, George, that's really great information, and that's really, I think, important facts that people need to know about just taking the risks, but not just risk without thinking about the results. And so, I really appreciate your time, and just think that you're a wonderful person and a great example for what I think a real hero is.
Well, Ralph, thank you very much. And once again, I said I do find that embarrassing. You've interviewed many people on In Search of Heroes. Now you have to get interviewed because you're probably the biggest hero I know of.
Well, I appreciate that compliment, and I guess I will be talking with you soon.
We always do.
Thanks, George.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. Have a nice evening.
Good night.
Bye.